Hey, Angie, welcome to the Girl Take No podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well, Shaunie. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. You know what's so funny? I have been speaking with entrepreneurs who are like traveling the world. And so I'm glad I'm able to have a chance to talk to you. I just spoke to a woman who, her and her husband, her son, they travel. They sold their home and they just travel the world. They both work from home, so they're able to live wherever they want, but they just really turn into a lifestyle. So I'm excited because you did the same thing. It's a lifestyle for you. So let's talk about that transition because you was a PR agency, right? You worked as a publicist, which, I wanted to say something about that because I used to do PR back in the day. And I feel like that's kind of like a career people really don't talk about much anymore. Do you notice that? Like, I don't even know if people really know what publicists do anymore, honestly, because social media and everything has changed it so much.
Yeah. Well, people don't know anymore what
Yeah,
publicists do. People didn't know back when I did it. It's
they
kind of hard to
didn't.
encapsulate it all into just one thing because, depending on what kind of PR you work in,
Yeah,
like it's going to be different. You could be doing healthcare PR at a PR
yeah,
agency. You
yeah,
could be doing the social media for a theme park, and that kind of counts in PR. So those are not the same thing, but they kind of fall under the same umbrella. And so if you're not in that world,
yeah,
it all kind of seems the same, probably
yeah.
similar to influencers and content creators. I know everybody kind of
Exactly.
seems like maybe they just do the same thing, but it's it's there as many people as there are, that's how many different business models there are. So
There really
yeah.
is. So you
Yeah.
went from PR to a celebrated travel writer. So what inspired this shift and did your background in PR kind of influence your travel writings?
Oh, 100%. I would say travel actually influenced my PR career before
Oh,
then my PR career launched me into even more travel writing. So
yeah.
when I was in college, I majored in public relations,
Hmm.
but I really enjoyed the reporting classes and the journalism classes that I had to take.
Mm,
So I had this pull, even when I was in college, should I switch to journalism? Because I love writing. And that's really kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to tell stories,
yeah.
even at 20 years old. I knew like, I just want to tell stories. But I guess I kind of got talked into, you know what? You've already got a bunch of PR credits. You can do both with the same degree. It's sort of doesn't matter. You'll figure it out once you get out. And that was true.
Yeah.
I learned to write either way. So it's just a matter of then finding opportunities and making it work. I think you could probably say I took the long way around to a writing career because I did really develop certain skills in my PR agency days. But yeah, it kind of I don't know. It was one travel thing after another, and pretty much as long as I was working in some kind of travel, I was happy. Whether
Yeah.
that was, I mean, happy is a relative term, but I was, in my element, I should say, in something that I enjoyed talking about and telling other people about. So my first PR job at an agency, I publicized
Chicken
and
farms?
chicken farms, like a
Oh,
particular poultry producer, yes,
yeah.
and acne medication, like prescription acne medication,
Hmm.
and pressure washers, and wool, like the wool industry. So this was not for me. And
Yeah.
this is, I was probably 22, 23 with this. And I was like, this is not the vibe, like I don't like this.
This
And then
isn't it.
this is not it. And I liked the PR part of it, but there wasn't a lot of storytelling. It was,
Hmm.
here's a press release. We have mitigated the tuberculosis outbreak at the
Mm,
farm. Stuff like that's not that exciting to me. I can't get excited about that. So I
yeah.
got very lucky that I had a couple opportunities to work on different travel clients, different accounts, small hotels, and I really liked it. So when I decided to move from Atlanta to New York, I got so lucky and got a job in the travel specific practice at a very
Mm,
big PR agency. So it was all travel. I didn't have to
mm.
do any stuff I didn't want to do. And it was just travel, 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 it's just easy to talk about. It's easy to sell.
S-
It's
You
everybody
know,
wants to travel pretty much. Like not
yes.
everybody wants to buy a pressure washer. That is a hard
Yes.
sell. So
It's
Yeah.
exactly. Who doesn't want to go to a beautiful place and stay in a luxurious hotel or either a quaint hotel? You know what I mean? Like, who doesn't
Yes.
want that?
Yes. It's that escapism that we all need sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
especially you're sitting in your 9 to 5, you have 2 weeks of vacation a year.
Mm-hmm.
You want it to be right.
Yeah.
And nowadays, when I was first doing PR, we didn't have the outlets that we have now to just reach directly to consumers.
Yeah.
We didn't get to go straight to the people on Instagram. It was,
Mm-mm.
we have to do a press release and then hope that
Yeah.
Condé Nast writes about our little whatever thing. And it was this whole
It's
process.
so different
It was a
then.
process. Yes. And now I can say, hey, girl with a great Instagram account, and you're a
Mm-hmm.
fit for my destination. We're going to pay
Mm-hmm.
you. We're going to bring you out. Come on out and take some pictures and show us about the time you're having. Show us the food. Show us the pool.
Yes.
And that works in a lot of ways better for sort of quick awareness. It may not drive immediate bookings, but hey, awareness is really important.
Awareness
And I
is
like it.
100%. Exactly. And
I'll
you
be
get
honest. I like where we've
enjoy
gone.
it.
Mm-hmm.
I
I
love
like
it.
where the industry has gone.
Yeah.
From when I first started in PR, in travel PR, like it's just different and it's
100%
fun.
different. It is.
Yeah.
It's so right now. Like you don't have to wait. You know what I mean? Like you said, PR was a waiting game. You do the press release. You hope. I did it in music. So you do the press release. This person's coming out with music. Now it's like everybody released their music on TikTok. There's no more waiting. It's direct to consumer,
Mm-hmm.
like you said.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned that your year long around the world trip accidentally turned into a career. How did that happen?
Well, I had already had a blog before I quit my PR job to travel. So I started
Mm-hmm.
blogging right when I moved to New York City, like day one. Started blogging to keep my family from freaking out because I moved from the South to the big city and everybody was literally freaking out and just
Oh my
hysteria.
God.
So I started a blog and it was really just for the relatives and the friends to be like, oh, what's Angie up to? And so I did that as, concurrently as I was working in the PR agency. And then
Mm-hmm.
years went by and I really did love the job, but did find eventually that I was pretty disposable. There's a lot of gals who want to work in PR, a lot of gals that want to live in New York City. And I found eventually that the pace was a little bit unsustainable. I don't know if it's just how I'm wired. I don't know if it's this way for everybody, but I was burning out and I didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a real hot mess sometimes and just not a lot of no time to process anything, no time to eat right, no time to work out, just no time to sleep. It was just go, go, go. And I loved it. It very much gave me, I guess, like the dopamine hits that I love, but it's not sustainable, as you're getting older and your body
Mm-hmm.
can't take that and your mind can't. Eventually, you are going to hit a wall. So I was getting to the point where I was going to hit the wall, decided to travel, had it in my mind that I was going to travel for my 29th year, right? Turn 29, go around the world, come back when I turn 30, and that would be it. I would go back to my PR job and life would go on. I just want to take a break.
Yeah.
And I transferred all my blog, all my Big Apple Angie stuff over to Angie Away. That was my travel girl stuff. Yeah, fun, right?
Angie Away.
And
it's so cute.
Angie Away. Yeah. And then it just kind of took off. This was in 2011. So very early days in blogging. And it was truly right place, right time, right connections. Instagram launched while I was on my trip. So things just started kind of getting added on. And it was like, well, when I started, I had my little blog, which we knew nothing about SEO or it was just, hey, I saw a draft today. That's not super helpful, but that's what it was. And it's changed so much now where every article is based on user intent. Like, what do my readers need to know when they're planning a trip to Kenya? Where can you see the giraffes? How many giraffes are there? Are giraffes safe? What do giraffes eat? Like, these are the kind of things you have to think about to be useful to readers nowadays when you run a travel website. Anyway, so I was doing this for a year, going to all these countries, and I came back for Christmas after a year on the road. And I was like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I was like, well, I'm not going back to an office. I can't after this. I couldn't do it. So my plan there was sort of, I'll see what happens next. I had a little bit of money left over. I'd done some freelance writing as I was traveling. And so I just kept going and then never stopped. And this career kind of has just grown with me. I've said yes to opportunities, and the industry has changed. And
Mm-hmm.
everything that I did when I started is not anything like it is now. And yet here I am, 10 plus years later, just still doing it. And now I've written a book about it. So it really, it's just one foot in front of the other, and
Yeah.
never knowing what is coming and finally being okay with that. Because
Yeah.
learning to trust that God actually means what he says when he's like, I
Mm-hmm.
will light your path and I will guide you, and all you have to do is ask. And I'm like, I need all the answers, and I need them all right now. And I'm 14 years old, and I need to know, I want the PowerPoint presentation. And
Yes.
I don't know if this is a US thing or a Western thing, but there's this pressure on the youth to know what you're going to do with your life. How
Yeah, it
can you
is.
know what you're going to do with your life? Who knows what they're doing? Even
Nobody do.
I'm middle aged and I don't know what I'm doing with my life
No idea.
still. I mean, I'm doing something my feet are moving. It's happening, but I don't know where the road is going to go. And so I had to get okay with that. And it took a long time,
Yeah.
but nothing that I had planned for myself happened, and everything that God had planned for me has happened and has been so much better. Like, I did not dream this big. I did not think this big. I didn't even know I could. I mean, this wasn't a career when
Yeah.
the counselors were like, "Oh, what do you want to be when you grow up?" I'm like, I don't know.
Mm.
I don't want to work. Who dreams of that? I don't dream of working. Like, I want to be a
Uh,
unicorn, or like, I don't who wants to work, right? But
yeah.
once you figure it out and build a career that actually works for you and the way that you're wired and your sleep schedule, like, things like this are so important. And at least now, 2024, that is so much more acceptable to talk about and care about, and give
Yep.
yourself that kind of grace to say, guess what? I am not wired to be in an office from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That is not
Exactly.
okay for my body, for my mental health. Like, it's just not going to work for me personally. Some people can do it. Certainly people in their 20s who have all this energy
Energy.
and
Mm-hmm.
ambition. Sure,
Mm-hmm.
go for it. I did it. It was fun. Would never do it again. But you work your way through, and every decade you have these different, your goals change,
Yeah.
and what you want out of life changes. And eventually, I don't know, at some point you're just like, oh, I'm so satisfied with how this is
How
going.
this
And
all going?
you can look and see the bad things and say, oh, that's how I got here.
Yes.
I wouldn't be here if not for that. If not for that redirect, I don't know where I would have ended up. So yeah,
I,
all that to say, I am accidentally here, but it's an accident on my part, not an accident on God's part. He put me exactly where I'm supposed to be, and
exactly.
I just didn't see it coming. I did not see it coming.
Let me tell you, this is so inspiring because I feel like I'm in that place too where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm getting up every day. I'm doing this. Right. And so I'm like, I'm like, God, what? God has a plan. And this is what I keep telling people. God has a plan. That's all I can tell you. I don't know what it is. All I know is I'm going to keep putting my same one foot in front of the other, and I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep working, because eventually it all makes sense. It all makes sense. And I think that's so important when you decide to make a leap into entrepreneurship, because for me, my leap was unintentional. I got laid off. I was like, okay, I really don't feel like, I kind of like, yeah, I really don't feel like going through the interview process again. I don't feel like doing all that again. So I was like, okay, God, you know what? I've been doing this podcasting for a little bit. I'm really put a lot of effort behind it and make it something sustainable, make it something because this is what I really want to do. And so I understand that concept so much, where it's like just trying to figure it out, but God has a plan, and wherever I land, that's where I'm supposed to be. I like
Yes,
that.
and the fact that God gives us our talents and our desires not
Mm-hmm.
so we can push them over there while we work for the man for the
Yeah.
rest of our lives
For
until
the rest of our
retirement.
lives.
And this comes from somebody who really, I enjoyed my job. I
Mm-hmm.
like working hard.
Yeah.
That's not the issue. It's just, you get one life. Do you
You
really
get
want to spend it
one.
making money for other people, Or do you just want to spend it living, and maybe money isn't the important thing? And I can say that because I did work hard. I did struggle. I did eat ramen noodles. I say this now as a 20-year career, having saved and struggled and saved and struggled. That there's a place of privilege to be able to look back and say, I did it. I got here, but it wasn't always easy. Like I didn't have anything to fall back on. I mean, I could have come home. I don't want to come home to my parents' house if I didn't have to, So you struggle and you get your way through it. And it's not always going to be easy, especially if you don't know where you're going. And if you don't have faith that somebody else is guiding your steps. I don't know how I would have gotten through all that without the faith aspect of it, and just knowing, what others intend for evil, God intends for good. And, he is guiding your steps and working on your success and gives you all good things. And it's just a matter of taking those talents and using them for his glory and for your, I don't want to say happiness, because I don't think it's about your happiness, but just fulfillment and just to make something out of the short time we have.
Yeah, because it's about doing what brings you joy. And in my first episode, I told people I started this podcast because I needed something for myself. I'm doing so much for husband, kids, everybody else. But I'm like, I had nothing for myself. And I'm not one of those women who's like, oh, my kids make me happy. I'm not saying that they don't, you know what I mean? But it's like, I need something more, because they grow up, they leave, and then what? Right. Yep. So I started this podcast because I really wanted something that'll bring me joy. And so I prayed, and I'm like, God, I just want something for me. And I'm like, I did radio for a long time. And then I was like, you know what? I really enjoyed doing it when I was at Sirius. I enjoyed it before they did the whole merger with XM. And I enjoyed it. I was like, so you know what? I think I'm gonna just do a podcast. I'm gonna just do it. I love entrepreneurship. It's something I want to get into. And I'm going to interview people who are entrepreneurs, and I'm going to get inspired by their stories. So talking to you right now, listening to this conversation and how much faith you have is so inspiring for me to continue on my journey. Because like you said, you do have those highs and lows in this journey. And when you go, sometimes it can be really low.
Well, yeah. And don't you question yourself? You say, should I have done this?
Yes.
I shouldn't have done this. I should be doing something else.
Day. I'm like, I'm going to put the resume out there.
Girl, I can't. Once a month, I'm like, I should get a real job, shouldn't I? I shouldn't. This is ridiculous. I'm like, I look around, and then I stop and assess and say, man, the things that have happened were not within my power. Things fall in my lap a lot. And so I know that that's God just blessing me and saying, oh, here's an opportunity. Here's a job. Not to say that I haven't worked, because I have, but he just opens the doors that need opening. And I am a lot better now about going through the ones he opens and not like peeking around to be like, what about that? What about that? And not forcing things.
Yes.
I think. And a lot of that comes with experience. Doing it for 20 years. There's things I'm just like, I could make that money right now, and that would be an easier bit of money to make, but I don't want to do it. So, and then you get that, you finally get to weigh, do I even want to do this? And you can say no, because I've saved and I have other opportunities, and that makes me say no to something else.
Yes.
Honestly, with writing my book, that's a really good example, because I feel like I was always going to write a book. That was a desire that God put in my heart from the time I was a kid. And I wasn't doing it because I was making money, and I was taking on this project, and I was traveling. And when you go on a travel campaign, it's not just the travel campaign. It's the 4 weeks of work afterwards when you get home and you have to edit the videos and create the content and write the things.
Oh, God, yes.
It takes so much time afterwards that you don't realize when you're like, oh, I'm going to be a travel blogger. It's not all cocktails and swimming pools. It's fun, but it's more work than it looks like. So I think, getting here has been nothing like I expected. Absolutely nothing like I expected. And the fact that the book, that I put it off and put it off and put it off. And I mean, I would go to church, and anytime it was like, what are you supposed to be doing? What is God calling you to do? I'm like, write the book. And I would leave on Sunday and be like, I got to write this book. And then something would come up, and it's good stuff. You got to pay your bills. It's not like I was doing like crime and illegal things just for fun, you got to pay your bills, but I did put it off for a long time, and for a lot of reasons, for the money
Yeah.
reasons, for making excuses. Like, I don't know if I can write this. It's really vulnerable and
Mm-hmm.
it's really honest. And do I really want to put myself out there like that? And still the answer is absolutely not. But I'm just trusting God to put me in a little bubble once it comes out. But it's a new step in my sort of career, because up till now it's like, here's a helpful travel tip. It's not,
Yeah.
here's how I got my heart broken, and here's
Yeah.
how I encountered some really crazy stuff at a yoga retreat, and here's how I got in kind of a plane crash a little bit.
Yeah.
So these
Y-
things all come out of the book.
You know what? Let's talk about the book, Flirting with Disaster: True Tales of Fear, Failure, and Faith. And
Yes.
what I was going to say, I love the fact that when I have guests on that I can talk about faith and God, because, a lot of times I don't, because, people have different religions, and I love to respect people's religion because I want people to
Yes.
respect mine. But it's always so much more helpful when I'm able to speak freely about it with another guest, where it's just like, okay, God, this episode is just for me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because now I
Yes.
ask to hear your voice. I ask for, give me a sign, God. I don't know, like bring a flash of light down or something, some kind of sign. And having episodes like this, because I didn't know we were going to be able to talk about this. You know what I mean? It's just let me know that one, God is real. For those who don't know, he's real, but also just it inspires me. So speaking of the book, what was probably one of the most challenging stories to relive and share in the book?
Probably anything relational,
Oh,
anything where I
yeah.
dated someone or met someone, or
Mm-hmm.
those things are not stories that I have shared
Mm-hmm.
previously. So those ones were really hard. And I do think that's one of the reasons I kind of dragged my feet for a long time, because I could write the travel stuff
Yeah.
well. That's what I do day to day. But getting in there and talking about, the emotionally abusive ex-boyfriend, and
Mm-hmm.
and being gaslit and being assaulted, like things like that, you don't if you don't write it, I don't know, it's just hard to write about. So
Yeah.
it was tough to relive some of those things. And then I just recorded my audiobook, and
Mm.
reading those things out loud with a room full of men in a sound booth who I don't know.
God.
Yeah, I felt like a total goofball, because I mean, none of it is super, super serious. Like, I make it sound
Yeah.
heavier than it is. A lot of it is like, I was a dumb 29-year-old and
We all make
kissed a
those
cute English
mistakes.
boy and chased
Yeah.
him around, la, 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 stuff like that. But reading that out loud to a room full of men I don't know was just, I was like, what is happening in my life right now? I'm like blushing, but I was in the booth. I was like, I'm glad nobody can see me. I'm like, and then I kissed this boy. Okay, calm down. So yeah, good times, good times. So uh, that stuff, the relationship stuff, was really the hardest to get into, and that's probably what I'm most worried about people reading.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? Like you said, you have faith and it resonate with people because we've all been there. And I love storytelling because we see ourselves with other women's story. You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of us going to be able to agree and relate to your relationships, because we've all had our ups and downs and our heartbreaks, and we all had to kiss a few frogs, you know what I
Oh
mean?
yes,
To
didn't
find the
we?
right one, or the ones we think are the right ones, at least.
Yes, 100%. And that's why I wanted to stay true to that story and not
Mm-hmm.
just write a how-to travel, or, just straight travel, because I wanted it to be relatable to the girl that I used to be,
Yeah.
and those girls that are still out there trying to figure it out, and take. So I grew up in church, right?
Yeah.
Grew up in, I would say, evangelical, pretty strict. Met
Mm-hmm.
Jesus when I was 5, super into it, always in
Mm-hmm.
church. But there's a lot of stuff I've had to unlearn from that upbringing. Now, I keep the Jesus and throw out all the,
Yeah.
like, the control and the works-based righteousness, and I mean the
Mm-hmm.
patriarchy, for lack of a better term, like things like that. And you learn that along the way. So I wanted to be able to speak to that girl who is in her 20s and saying, I'm supposed to get married, right? So
Yeah.
does that mean to anybody? Like, to whoever's around,
Exactly.
to whoever the grown-ups say is good? because
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where I was. It was, well, this
Yeah.
guy's good. This guy has a good resume and he's good enough. It didn't matter that we would
Mm-hmm.
have killed each other, that he was a
Mm-hmm.
terrible person. He was a good person on
Mm-mm.
paper. So
Yeah.
I do want to be able to speak to those gals. And I will say it's a book for anybody who loves travel. So if you're not a 20-something gal, you're still going to like it.
Oh yeah.
It's funny, and it's I thought it was 12 countries until the other day I counted. It's actually 13 countries. I've been saying 12 for like 10 years, but it's more like 13 countries. So I can write, but I cannot count apparently. Um, yeah. So
I like
I
it.
think, yeah, it's I wanted it to be relatable, and I'm glad that it is. I've had some early reviews, and that's all I'm hearing from women. They're like, "Oh, who hasn't chased an accent to
Ugh,
Paris?" Like,
come on.
and if you didn't, you wanted to. Like,
Yeah. You wanted
we've
to.
all done
I've chased him in the
stupid things.
neighborhood. You know what I mean? So it's
Hello?
like it's
Yes.
it's no difference. It's all
No.
definitely the same. Let me ask you this
Yes.
question. Did you
Mhm.
always see yourself as an entrepreneur?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Oh no, definitely not. No. When I was in college with said gaslighty boyfriend,
Mhm.
he was the guy figuring everything out, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I
Yeah.
didn't. I was majoring in public relations with very little clue of what that meant career wise. I didn't, I was
Yeah.
like, I'm a people person. Well, first of all, I am not a people person. And second of all, the things you learn as you grow up. And second
Yeah.
of all, that has nothing to do with public relations, really. So I learned so much. But yeah, he was the one who knew what he was doing, and I was just figuring it out. So he's talking about, oh, I want to start a business and I want to be a millionaire. And I was like, I don't care about any of that. I just want
Mm.
to just go to work and make enough money to live. I'm not trying to make $1 million.
Yeah.
I just want to live kind of a simple-ish existence, but I also want to travel all the time. So how do we do that? And then I guess, the sanctification process is never over. And so I was
Mhm.
just getting refined, refined, refined. God was working out all the weird stuff and these misconceptions I had about who he was and
Yeah.
what the body of Christ was supposed to be and what
Mhm.
marriage was supposed to be and
Yeah.
working all this stuff. I'm so grateful that that got worked out more or less before I got married.
Mhm.
If I did things the way everybody wanted me to do things, I would have been married and pregnant at 20 years old. I
Yeah.
probably would have, which is nothing wrong with that, but that wasn't wired for that. Like I wouldn't have
Mm-mm.
lived out my purpose if I had done that. So, I'm just glad God's purposes are bigger and stronger than mine and than everybody else's plans for me too.
Yeah. I like the fact that travel has always been a part of you, something you've always wanted to do, and to see where you are now doing it for a living. You know what I mean? Like that's amazing. Because a lot of us are young, like, oh, I just want to travel the world. But then life happens and you don't, right? You don't get into that
Hmm.
kind of life. You maybe travel maybe once a year if you can. But you've been able to actually make a career out of something you've been wanting to do from since you were young. I think that's amazing.
And truly, I had a couple tastes of travel when I was younger.
Hmm.
We'd go on a cruise out of
Yeah.
Cape Canaveral, just a little dinky cruise to the Bahamas. And I'm like, I am overseas. This is amazing. And I didn't know what that life could look like.
Yeah.
When pre-internet, we couldn't just look up careers. We
Mm-mm.
had the list that the guidance counselor gave us. Those were our choices. And I had blue collar parents. I was the first one in my family to go to college. I had
Hmm.
no reference point. I was just
Yeah.
like, I can't wait to go on vacation once a year. That was the extent of what I thought I would be able to do. And just the older I got, the more opportunities there were. And thank the Lord, just seriously, for provision and providence and
Yeah.
just getting me there, because I didn't have any kind of imagination toward this life
Hmm.
and toward being an entrepreneur. I still can't believe that I'm technically considered an entrepreneur because I don't feel entrepreneurial, if
Mm.
that makes sense. To me, an entrepreneur is somebody who's like going after it with a business plan and investors and like that was never me. I was just like, let's
Yeah.
see if I can find a paycheck. I still don't even have an LLC. This is bad. That's not entrepreneurial. Like, I really should have something like that. You know, at this point, I've been doing it a really long time. I should have that figured out by now, but I'm still seat of my pants in a
Listen,
lot of ways. But
to a lot of us, you're
I'm
very
doing it.
successful entrepreneur. You've
Hey,
been
I'll
doing it
take it.
a long time. So we look at you as like, she's successful at it. So can I. That's how we look at it.
If I can do it with no idea what I'm doing, just literally enough gumption to go try things. And when
Yeah.
somebody says, hey, there's this opportunity, okay, I've never done that before, but I guess I'll try it.
Yeah.
And you just, it's really about being out there and meeting people and going to conferences, even if they're draining, and
Yeah.
traveling, even if you're tired, just being out there. Every time I leave the house, I don't want to leave the house, but every time I make myself do it, I meet somebody who changes the game or helps
Oh,
me start a different business, or
wow.
I can help them do something, or I can just tell them the best way to visit Paris in the spring. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
it's so nice to be able to just have advice, and people always need it. People are always traveling.
Always. And it's, travel is something I desire to do more of. It's like, I have not even been out the country, and I'm ashamed to tell you how old I am, because you're going to judge me and you're gonna be like, what? And
But you
it's
have
something.
kids, and kids slow you down in a lot of ways when they're little, because you can't just up and take them everywhere necessarily.
That's true. Yeah.
You know?
But it's something I desire. I desire
Yeah.
to do more of. And I said this year, I have to get at least a country in. Like, I really have to plan it out and really get it done. So it's something that I desire to do. I wanted to ask you this question when you talked about Instagram had just launched. So when Instagram came out, how did it change everything for you? Did you see it as this thing of like, oh my God, what is this? How am I supposed to use this? Or did you see it as an opportunity to reach more people? You know what I mean? How did you see it when it launched?
At that point, I wasn't really seeing this as a career. It was just me telling stories on my blog and my personal Facebook page and my personal Twitter. Like that was it. That was all we had. And so Instagram came out, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll get it. This is when we would take a photo instantly, put it up on Instagram, throw a stupid filter and a frame on it, and maybe write a caption, maybe not. Like, that's what I did truly the first year. Those pictures are horrible. But it's another one of those things. It just grows and grows, and you grow with it, and you figure out, what does the algorithm value now? What kind of content do people want to see? I went from 25 followers to 90,000 followers. That's a whole big different group of people that is looking for different kind of content. So how can you be helpful and entertaining and funny and yourself, when all the algorithms for all the social networks are really trying to funnel everybody into a box? And I have spent my whole life trying not to be just stuck in a box. So it's very hard for me to say, oh, my niche is this one thing, because I don't have one thing. My Instagram is videos of my dog waking up, because he is very cute. It is, and that is not rewarded by Instagram. Instagram wants to see drone footage of the Maldives. That is what Instagram wants to see, or a bikini. Sorry, I'm out. Leave me alone. I'm past. That is not my niche. That has never been my niche. But it values different things, and so you constantly are reassessing, is this me, or am I pandering to the audience? Am I creating content I want to create, or content I have to create? It's pretty existential all the time. And do I know enough? And do I need another course? And do I even want to be on Instagram anymore? I can't tell you how many times I've been like, shut it down. I'm so sick of it. Because I'll spend 12 hours on a video project and put it up, and 200 people see it, and 3 people like it. And I may have gotten paid for that. And I'm like, this is depressing, because I want to give you all your money back, because nobody looked at it. It's not my fault. The content's good. Look at what's on Instagram. Look at what's popular on TikTok. Is it always about talent? Is it always about quality? Or is it about falling down the stairs? Right? Or something to that effect. So
you're right. It's really isn't about that. It's so, it's so different. This kind of content that gets the most views and likes, and you look at it and you're just saying to yourself, so I'm producing this quality content, but yet this person over here is just sitting online eating soup and people are fascinated by it. And now here I am, I'm captivated
Right.
myself. Why
Yeah.
am I captivated?
Why am I?
By just seeing
Yes.
somebody eat soup. And then you think to
Why?
yourself, am I supposed to now sit on my Instagram and eat soup? Like, it's just,
Well, that's the
it's
thing. And
so right.
you run your whole life. Do you hear that clicking? Do you hear any clicking? I
I
hear
don't
it in
hear
my
any
headphones,
clicking.
but if you don't hear it, we're good.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I hope it's not me.
No, it must be me.
Don't worry about it. That can be edited out.
Okay. So you run your whole existence, you run your whole value through
Mhm.
these systems that are not human. So the algorithm often tells me you're good or you're bad. You did good
Mhm.
today. You succeeded today, or you didn't. And it doesn't always have to do with me because I'm confident that I know what I'm doing at this point.
Yeah.
I know how to make good content. I know how to make a funny video. It's not always about me. So
Mhm.
it's a tricky career. It's tricky to be this kind of entrepreneur. And that's why I always tell people don't grow up to be an Instagram influencer. That is not all there is. And
Mhm.
it changes so frequently.
Yep.
You got to have a lot more eggs in the basket.
Yeah. You
You
do.
know,
And then you got to have some type of own real estate, because a lot of these platforms don't belong to us. If the people platforms get shut down all the time, they get taken away, they get banned, and then it's like you start all over again. But yet, had you had something owned, a piece of digital owned real estate, you'll still have way to connect with your community. But a lot of people on these platforms don't think about website, don't think about email, trying to capture people email. They're just here to capture the attention of the moment. That's really what they think about. And you say, well, is that really a brand? You know what I mean? It really does make me think about it. Like, is that really a brand if you're just on this platform? But, society says different, I guess. That's what they say.
Well, and as fast as you go viral,
yeah,
you'll be forgotten. Like, thanks for the
exactly.
great video, made me laugh. It was on the Today Show, and now you're gone.
And now you're
That's
gone.
not a career.
Mm-mm.
That's not something you can build a life on. That's flash in the pan kind of stuff. So there's so much more to it if you do want to be sort of a professional full-time content creator. Like you said, you have to own digital real estate. You've got to have a website. You have to have so many pots in the fire. And
you do.
that's probably where the entrepreneurial stuff comes in, because you really got to be willing to get up every day and change it up and see what's coming next. And you can't do things the way you did 5 years ago and 10 years ago.
No.
Everything changes I think it probably changes at least some every 6 months.
Yeah.
And then every 18 months, I feel like I'm doing a whole new career.
Yeah.
And adding a new, we just added Threads last year. That's a whole other network
thing.
to see how it works and see if it's worth being there. Is it worth the effort? Who's there? What are people talking about? Blah.
Yeah.
And
what
then
are they looking for?
Are we just getting rid of Twitter? Am I supposed to be on YouTube still if I'm not eating soup or whispering into the microphone or whatever people do on YouTube?
Yeah. The ASMR. Yeah.
Should I have podcasts? Yes. And there's a lot of things, and it can be very overwhelming. So, and not only are there so many things, but I want to stay me and
I want to stay me,
not pander to algorithms. So that it can be tricky. It's definitely
really can.
Sort of an existential crisis every single day of my life.
Yeah. It says that you describe yourself as a hesitant risk taker. What is some advice you think you could give to others who might be afraid to step out of their comfort zone?
I feel like that's been my whole life. I feel like all I do is things that scare me. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's that chemical reaction you get in your brain, that adrenaline, is the good feeling of climbing a mountain and getting to the top. That's great. It's that nice boost of dopamine, serotonin, whatever it is. But I would just say do it scared.
Yeah.
If there's somewhere you're trying to go, not physically, not like a destination, but in your life, if there's somewhere you want to be, if you look at your 5-year plan and you say, I want to be I want to have this much money in the bank and I want to have a house and I want to have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you do that? You just got to keep taking steps. And sometimes that means you're going to do things scared. You don't
Yeah.
have to. There is nothing wrong with staying in the town you grow up in and marrying your high school sweetheart and having kids. Like, that's great. That is a stability to be grateful for if
Yeah.
you can get that. Like, if that is your journey, then yay. But if it's not, and you never quite feel at home, or you feel like you just haven't made it to your destination yet, and you know there's more, then you're going to have to do things that are scary. And I feel
Yeah.
like I do it all the time. Public speaking, I don't like
Oh.
it. I really don't like it. It makes me very, very nervous and just physically unwell. And afterwards, I'm like, that was great. I'm good at this. Look at me. Everybody laughed. I'm so happy. And
Yeah.
then, then I'll sign up to do another speech somewhere. And I'm like, why do I do this? I hate this. My poor sister, she's always with me. And she's like, why? Why are you like this? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Because I truly hate it. And same thing for, I don't know, adventure activities. I
Mm.
haven't done very many lately. I feel like it's been a minute, but my husband and I were in Costa Rica last year, and I was like, let's go rappelling down some waterfalls. Haven't done anything fun in a while. And I'm up there like, what am I doing up here? Getting backwards off a cliff. I'm like, do I even like this? And no, I like having done it. I like the pictures afterwards and being
Exactly.
able to say, look at me, look what I did. But I don't like doing it when I'm doing it.
I
Meanwhile,
know.
he doesn't, his heart rate doesn't even go up. He just jumps off and he's fine. And I'm a little bit stressed out. So I don't know. You have to do things that scare you, and whatever that may be. I mean, I feel like interviewing for new jobs is really scary.
Oh yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
meeting new people, going to a networking event
Yes.
is scary. Just doing anything really that's just not you in your own little bubble is pretty scary. So it doesn't have to be rappelling off a waterfall to be a big step in the right direction. It's got to be in the right direction is the thing.
Exactly.
What direction are you
Exactly.
going in? And sometimes you don't know, but as long as you're talking to God as you go and you're staying within the parameters, I don't think there's a set, like, am I supposed to take this job or this job? Pray
Mm-hmm.
about it and take the one you most want to take, and
That's
God
it.
will bless your steps. You know what I
Mm.
mean? That's not
Yeah.
choosing like a life of crime over a life of volunteerism. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You're not choosing good versus evil. You're choosing like this job or that, or this college or that college, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It gets a little trickier when you're choosing a husband and
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that.
It
Those are a
does.
little
Yeah.
bit trickier,
Oof.
but I think we over complicate certain things and over spiritualize jobs, like certain choices like that. I think we can tend to over freak out about them. And some of those
Yeah.
things, God's just going to bless your steps. Just go take the job.
Just do it anyway.
Just go take the job. And if it's
Mm-hmm.
not supposed to be, he'll shut the door, because you can't get what's not for you. Like, it's not going to happen. Whatever is
Mm-hmm.
going to happen is going to happen. So you just keep
Yeah.
walking. You just keep walking
Yeah.
and
That's the mindset. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
keep your eyes up, keep your eyes on God, not on your circumstances, not on your feet, and just keep looking to God to open doors and
Provide.
keep and provide. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
that's huge,
provide.
especially
Yeah.
I think as an entrepreneur,
Yes.
because that was one of the scariest things when I quit my job and my benefits and my health
Mm-hmm.
Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrifying. And
Oh
I
yeah.
actually don't know that I do recommend anybody ever do that, because it is scary,
Yeah.
right? My family was so scared. And as I was flying across the world the first time, I was like, this might be really dumb. This might be really dumb. And the thought back then was like, well, no one will ever hire you again because
Mm-hmm.
you're obviously flaky because you took a year off. And what
Yeah.
kind of worker are you? Well, I'm
That's
not
what
that
they
kind
used
of
to say.
worker.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not that kind of worker that's going to work somewhere for 40 years
Mm-hmm.
and be unappreciated and underpaid. And they don't give you what they used to give you in a
Oh no.
job. You don't
You
get a
don't get
pension.
you
You
don't
don't
get that no
get
more.
the Rolex watch when you've been
No.
there for 50 years. They don't
Mm-mm.
care. I mean, some companies maybe, but not really. That I would say that's pretty rare. So it that kind of oh, you stay at a job forever. It's not valued. It's not
No,
valued enough to sell your life to a company for. It's just
no,
not.
it's just not. And and it's so funny because they don't give pensions like that anymore. It really tells you where the landscape of the workforce is. You know what I mean? Because back then, that's what people work for. They work for those pensions. They get to retire over. My mother has it. She's still getting it. Right. But it's like today, you don't get that. They give you the 401k and those go up and down in terms of the market.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing is guaranteed.
No.
But let's just
No.
talk about how busy you are because you're hosting 2 podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
You're a busy person, traveling with AAA, and this one, which I love, with your new sister. But did you die with the Jet Sisters?
Yeah.
Tell me about these 2 podcasts and what can your listeners expect from these platforms?
So traveling with AAA is a gentle and safe journey to destinations that we talk about. We interview a different guest every week. We put it out weekly, and I'm very lucky there because that's the first podcast I ever really hosted, and it's so fun. We have a great team, and there are people that edit it and put it out super professionally. I'm just there. I'm just talking to people. I'm just interviewing people. I contribute my opinion here and there, but I am the host. So very lucky. And because I've been having so much fun, my sister and I decided, you know what? It's time for us to finally start a podcast. We've worked together for years.
Yeah.
We travel all over together and we're like, let's do this. She lives in Orlando. I live in Jacksonville. So we don't get to see each other much, but a podcast, now we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
We can do that together anytime. So, so we started, But Did You Die? A podcast by the Jet Sisters, and it's been really fun. It's a little challenging figuring it all out. That's one reason I never started a podcast before, because I was like, I can't learn another thing. I can't learn another. I was like intimidated by getting a microphone and all those things. I'm like, I can't do it. But my AAA team brought me on board and set me all up. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm a pro. So it's really fun. And we talk about travel. My sister and I, we talk more about the mishaps and the things that go wrong and the things that go right, but the things you have to be careful of. This past episode, we have an episode coming out today, and we talked about the travel advisories in Jamaica and Bahamas. And what does that really mean for just a regular traveler who's seeing that on the news and panicking? Like, what does it really mean? So we talk about those kind of things. We talk about, the plane door whipping off and the kid who was sitting there, his shirt got ripped off. We talk about things like that. So, travel is wonderful, but travel is just like anything in life. There are dangers. There are unforeseen obstacles, whether you're at home or you're away. Life is crazy. This planet we live on is absolutely bonkers, and we don't know what's going to happen from day to day. So it's a good way for us to look back on the crazy things that we have survived and help other people sort of navigate, especially people who haven't traveled a lot and maybe see on the news, oh, the Bahamas has a level 2 travel advisory, and think they can't go to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
We're like, no, listen, let's go. We're all going. We'll show you where to go, because that's not the case at all. So,
well, I'm gonna tell you this.
We're making it accessible.
When I get ready to travel, I'm definitely gonna call you.
Yeah, please do.
I'm gonna listen to the podcast, and I'm gonna make sure I get I'm gonna get all the insights on where I could go, what I need to do, how to be safe, all that great stuff. I'm gonna bring this show. We're gonna bring it to a close, but I want to ask you, out of all the countries you've been to, which one is your favorite, and what experience made it your favorite?
I'm the worst at picking favorites. Honestly, I think I lost count of how many countries I've been to. It's something like 60 something. So it is very hard to say a favorite. The one I've been to the most is probably the Bahamas, because I used to do their public relations back when I lived in New York. So I've been there quite a bit. I don't know. Greece, maybe. Greece is stunning. It's really tough to say.
Greece. I want to go to Greece.
I love England. It's just wonderful and darling, and the little neighborhood, outside of London, and the Cotswolds is just charming. And there's castles. Like, what is that? That's real life. That's real life for people. They just live in castles. Are you kidding me? That's exciting. It's so different. I think anytime you can go somewhere that is just so different than your own neighborhood and your own life, it is just exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And after doing it for a long time, maybe it loses a little bit of its shine, but then you get back out there again and you're like, oh yeah, look at this. Look at this 1,000-year-old castle. Are you kidding me? And I just get so excited, and layers of history, basically anywhere that has layers of history that I can just get lost in, or any place that has a movie kind of
Yeah.
attached to the location.
Oh yeah.
Give me the Tower of London, give me Downton Abbey,
Oh,
give me Mamma
love
Mia.
Downton.
Anywhere I can kind of connect a
Mm-hmm.
destination with a movie and get that vibe going, that's always fun. That makes it a little bit extra jazzy. But I like everywhere. That's the truth. I like everywhere. Every place in the world has something unique to offer, and most places are pretty nice to random tourists. So
Good.
yeah.
So this is the last question I'm going to ask you. For someone who has not traveled abroad, like myself, what would be the first country you'll tell me to go to, that I'll get the best experience, that I'll be treated well? What would be the best country to go to as a first-time traveler?
This is a loaded question, because it really it depends on a lot of things. It depends. I mean, if we're talking about you specifically,
Yes,
you probably couldn't go wrong with London.
Mm.
It's easy to navigate.
Definitely wanna
Public
go.
transportation. Everybody speaks English, obviously. People
Mhm.
are pretty friendly, and even if they're not, you can't tell because they have these charming little Mary Poppins accents. So you're like, oh, everybody's so cute, even if they're kind of telling you off. You don't even know, because they're
Yeah,
it's cute. So probably, I mean, that's a super easy starter
yeah.
country, starter city, friendly. That's the first country I actually went to was
Mm.
England in
Okay.
high school, and I fell in love. I mean, I went to see like their version of Broadway, West End. I went to their shows and saw the palace, and I was just obsessed instantly.
Mm.
And not every country is like that, but it's an easy starter situation. It's a really good easy one. And then I would also say, just for convenience, the Caribbean.
Yes.
You really can't go wrong in, I'd say, the Bahamas, or
Mhm.
where else? Gosh, I mean, Aruba.
Yes.
It's just, and it's beautiful, and it's easy to get to from most places in the US.
Mhm.
So the Caribbean is just like super low hanging fruit. Easy, fun, good food, nice weather. The water is ridiculous. Like it's healing just looking
Oops.
at it.
I'm
It's
sorry.
healing. That's okay.
I'm glad the show is coming to an end, because here comes the dog barking at somebody outside of the window.
I have those dogs too. They do the same thing every time I'm recording a podcast.
Oh God. Okay, so good. I'm glad. Okay, yes, the Caribbean, because the Caribbean is definitely what I was thinking about, but I love England, so I definitely got to get there too. Angie, listen, thank you so much for being on the show. This was such a good episode. I'm so happy you came on, for taking the time.
Thank you for
right?
having me. No,
Oh,
you're
yes.
a gem for having me, and I'm glad we got to connect on deeper things too.
Yeah,
Really
I am
nice.
too. It is. It's always nice, like I said, to have people on where you could talk about your faith. So I appreciate that part. Well, guys, listen, this is the Girl Taking No Podcast. I am Shaunie Sanders, and I will talk to you next time.